right, so we move to another corporate now, and it hasn't been all pleasant for Dangote Group in the last few days, from the issue of crude availability to the allegation of monopoly to the quality of the petroleum products. We'll clear the air on this and a whole lot more. But first, our correspondent Olu Phillips was at the refinery when the lawmakers visited.
And the beat goes on. Another high-profile visit to the world's largest single-train refinery complex, which also houses a fertilizer and petrochemical plant. Seeing is believing, they say. The tour is for members of Nigeria's legislative arm led by its Speaker Tajuddin Abbas. They caught glimpses perhaps of what have been talked about variously about the sheer size of this facility, sitting on over 2,300 hectares of reclaimed land, excluding the port area and the XPM line for importing crude and for exporting refined petroleum products.
So we cannot just bring and work the vessels. So we had to build this.
We didn't expect this visit to be a wild goose chase, with the inundating comments and spoken expectations about the refinery in the past weeks. Then this moment came. While being shown the world-class laboratory Dangote and his team have often boasted about, and the machine that elicited the next move is this one, the ED-XRF spectrophoto machine, which can process any petroleum products to determine the sulfur content. 2 random diesel samples were brought from 2 different fuel stations, and in what appears like a mini investigation, the parliamentarian requested to put this machine to use instantly. While that is ongoing, they dispatched some of their colleagues to go fetch randomly samples from the ones currently being refined in Dangote. All 3 passed through this machine.
So the analysis is starting now. It's a 5-minute analysis.
Like a clinical patient waiting for a medical result, we all post all activities. So what do we have here? The results showed that the sulfur content in the diesel from other stations were 2,631 and 1,829 respectively, higher than the allowed amount. The Dangote's results showed an 86.7 parts per million sulfur content in diesel. That's not all. Another test was quickly conducted in this same laboratory, this time to determine the flash point of the diesel sample collected.
Okay, so let's do that, because the other one we just passed through.
The flash point is the lowest temperature at which the application of an ignition source causes the vapor above the liquid to ignite. Again, the readings of 26 and 63 for the diesel from other stations fell short of the acceptable minimum of 66, and Dangote's did well above 75 degrees. The face of resilience has just thrown this challenge.
Maybe, Your Excellency, you can set up a team to be maybe headed by the chairman downstream and midstream, so that they will now come in, take our sample with their representative, with our own representative, and go to any filling station of 3 different companies, and you go now and they check in their own labs, and we will accept the result.
Surely, we'll do that, I promise you. Thank you.
So, we are Nigerians. We are a patriotic organization. Our diesel will be 10 ppm by next week. PMS will be ready by August 2024. Yes, we are dropping plans to venture into the steel business, so we are not labeled monopolists. We welcome independent investigation and more.
This is really very disheartening when people keep talking about all this monopoly. Monopoly, you know, is this only when you stop people, you block them through legal means or whatever. No, it's a level playing field where whatever Dangote was given, okay, in cement, for example, okay, other people too were given. In the refinery, we did not, and I repeat, we did not collect one single incentive from the federal government of Nigeria or from even the Lagos State of Nigeria. Yes, Lagos State, maybe they gave us a good deal, but we paid $100 million for the land. It wasn't a free land. We paid for it. Okay, so people are always looking at the different, other side. They are not really looking at the real picture. So just for the fact that yes, we are ready and about to start this, everybody is now up and about. Yes, but we know that what is giving us a lot of joy is that we know that the majority of the population, they are with us.
These are some of the positions of the Africa's richest man. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
So it hasn't been very pleasant for Dangote Group. That's the CEO of the group there, Mr. Aliko Dangote. Well, let's see if we can clear the air on some of these issues. And right here in the studio is the Director, Group Chief Commercial Officer, Dangote Industries, here, Mr. Rabiu. Mr. Rabiu Umar, thank you so much and good morning.
Good morning, Yini. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's been so much attention on Dangote these past days, but unfortunately it hasn't been for good. First, we saw Dangote talk about the IOCs, which other refiners have also complained about. And then we now, of course, you've been importing, you've continued to do that. That's crude. And then now we now hear of the quality of your petroleum products, now the issue of monopoly and all of that. Tell us what's really going on. We did hear Ms. Aliko right there saying he has not, the company has not received any incentive from the government. Even the land in Lagos, they've had to pay $100 million and all of that. So what's really going on? What's the undertone?
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think I would like to start by, first of all, addressing the issue you raised regarding the supply of crude. We started operation earlier this year, and when we started, we were not getting crude oil from most of the IOCs. In fact, as a matter of fact, it took the intervention of the NMDPRA to come and bring out terms and conditions for the domestic supply. Because let's not forget, we produce crude oil in Nigeria, and then a lot of it is exported. And then what comes back is the refined products. So the NDPRC had to set up a meeting to bring out guidelines on how domestic crude obligations will be met. And following from that, we're still waiting. It's a very good plan, but we're still waiting to see that the implementation of that takes effect. But because as we speak, we have not yet started seeing that. We got nothing for the month of August, and we're expecting for the next month 5 cargoes from NNPC, and we are going to have to import 10 cargoes from Brazil and the USA. So what that tells you is still we are more or less 60% reliant on importing the crude we're going to refine. That is to address the first point you made regarding what is happening regarding the crude oil. In terms of
the intervention of the NUPRC, do you see that dealing with that challenge now? The IOC is publishing the guidelines, for pricing and the terms for sales?
Like I said, time will tell, because as we speak, most of the companies that are producing crude have participated in a foreign tender in faraway Indonesia for Pertamina. So what doesn't make sense to us is, why would Nigerian crude be going to Indonesia and then a Nigerian company is going abroad to bring in the same product?
So is there no, I do know that, for instance, Nigeria has done a lot of crude loan for crude deal and all of that. Could that be the reason? Or do you think there are sentiments around this?
No, I mean, it's very clear. I don't think it's a question of commitments. It's more a question of an enabling environment. Because let's face it, you take out the crude and then we go and bring in the crude. To me, it doesn't make sense. Because let's not forget that Nigeria is supposed to have 445,000 barrels per day of domestic consumption, which is the nameplate capacity of our refineries. meaning that if these refineries were working, there's no need to export the product. This is the product that is supposed to be used for refining, and then, of course, Nigerians will be the ones enjoying the product locally. But today, we are exporting most of this product anyway.
But I mean, I do know that crude is globally priced. That means if Dangote is buying it, they pay at the global, they pay for it with the global price. If you're exporting it, it's the same thing. Do they make more gains exporting this crude?
Well, so yeah, typically there are benchmarks. There are international benchmarks for pricing. But what we have been saying is that there are instances where we are paying a premium above those benchmarks. And in some instances, we feel why would it be cheaper to bring in products from Brazil, for example, or from America, compared to what you are getting here? It doesn't make a lot of sense that you're paying more for what is near you. I would have assumed that it is more logical that when you bring products from outside, it's going to cost you more, because even if your cost of production or international pricing is the same, a barrel is a barrel anywhere in the world. So there's no difference in terms of the benchmarks for pricing.
Okay, so let's talk about this issue of the quality, which the NMDPRA alleged. And we saw there in the reports that our correspondent, Lou Phillips, went to do at your refinery, the tests. Tell us what it's supposed to be, what it is. I mean, from that report, it did indicate that perhaps even some products from other outlet stations have less quality and more impurity. But tell us about this issue and why it's even coming up at this time.
Okay, so I'll take it in 2 steps. So first and foremost, there is an ECOWAS declaration that was passed in 2020, which is supposed to help African nations to stop receiving substandard fuel. What sulfur does, it reduces the quality of air and brings a lot of carbon emissions, reducing the quality of life, if you like. So ECOWAS came up with a declaration that said, give up until 2025, local refineries, and this means any refinery within the West African region, is allowed to produce at higher levels of sulfur, given that they have time to make the investment to desulfurize and meet the specification of what is called parts per mil of sulfur, which is parts per million. And the idea is that by the end of this year or beginning of 2025, all these refineries are supposed to have complied to what is called 50 ppm, which is parts per mil. Now, at the same time, imports from other regions of the world were limited to that 50 ppm, because the idea is you're importing substandard products into the region. So that came into effect. And it's not something that was designed or conceived or even by any stretch of imagination driven by the Dangote Group. This was something that the Economic Community of West African States came together and decided to say, this is the limit that we want to accept. In addition to that, just this year, you can go and check it, Brussels and Netherlands and Belgium both stopped even transition of high sulfur product through their tanks, meaning that they don't want the product to even come into their tanks or into their region, even if it is meant for export to other regions. This is largely because the sulfur has an effect on, on the environment. And it also has some effect on, the quality of the equipment itself, or what happens to your equipment. The second thing I would like to say on this quality issue is that during the visit of the Honorable Speaker and other ranking members of the House, we didn't even know. On the way to the refinery, they stopped by and they picked samples of product from petrol stations, because the only way you can be sure of the quality of what you are getting is to take it at the consumption point. And what did they see? I think you were playing the numbers just a few seconds, 2,600 in one station and 1,800 in another. The second issue was also that of flashpoint. And the flashpoint is also an issue because it's something that can affect your engine, because it actually increases the combustibility or the flammability of the product, and meaning that it's also a safety hazard. It's something that can actually affect, you can actually have a fire. Back in the day, we used to have a lot of issues with kerosene issues. Some of it is actually the reason is because of the flash point, a contaminated product that has a low flash. Now, a test was also done on our own product, and all the parameters are actually above what you'll expect. All the parameters are on point. It's true, when we started production, the sulfur content was a little higher. And that is because refinery is a very complex operation. And when you start, you are commissioning one equipment after the other. Until you finish that process, there will be certain things that will be not on point. But in fact, our commissioning is one of the best and the fastest in the world in terms of speed of commissioning.
So now that you had the lawmakers there, carried out the test, are you in communication with the NMDPRA? Have you shared the result of the test with them so we can clear the air on this allegation?
Yes, we are. And if you look at it today, your correspondent was there, and we're inviting the civil society organization and any Nigerian who's interested to visit. Our laboratory is one of the best you can find anywhere in the world. We have all the testing equipments, and we invite anybody to come and visit it. When you talk about the regulator, we have representation from the regulator on our site all the time, which is why we are very surprised to hear some of the comments, especially regarding level of completion of the refinery, given that all our operations are done in tandem with the regulators.
Okay, so do we say that's cleared, or you're still waiting for NMDPRA, do you understand, to retract? So because it does create perspective, in the mind of some Nigerians.
Yes, which is why we're trying to clear the air. And to clear the air is a very simple process. The regulator can take samples from our production. As we said earlier,
has the NMDPRA been there to take the samples?
The NMDPRA is always there. They are residents at the refinery. And we are inviting them to come and take new samples from our production and test it. There are reputable test companies, and we are also inviting other interested stakeholders to do the same. And you will find what I'm telling you, which is the fact that we are currently even at 32 ppm as we speak. And by the end of this month, we're going to 10 ppm. And 10 ppm, just for context, is the best diesel you can find anywhere in the world. There's a standard called the EN 590, which is a European standard, which is the highest standard of diesel you can find, or what is otherwise known as the ultra-low sulfur diesel. And that is what we are going to be producing.
So I think the latest conversation is one of monopoly, and you've said you're going to put a hold on your steel plan and all of that. But where does this come from? I mean, Dangote refinery has been in the works for a bit, and I believe you've been in touch with the regulators. As you said, the NMDPRA is right there. Where does the conversation around monopoly come out from?
Well, it's your guess is as good as mine. And it's quite sad that we're having this conversation because, first of all, we're not the only refinery in Nigeria. The government owns 4 refineries, and at the last time we checked, over 4 billion has been spent in the last couple of years trying to fix these refineries. In addition, there are some other private refineries, and when these other refineries started, nobody in Nigeria said, oh, XYZ is going to create a monopoly. There is nothing further from the truth, because if you look at it, we have made an investment, $20 billion. And let me just make this for emphasis sake. In my adult life, I have never seen an investment this size. And I challenge anybody, whether in Nigeria or even in other African countries, to show us where such an investment has gone into. Number one. Number two, like I said, there are other refineries and there are investments that have been made financially in making sure these refineries work. So is it to say that the refineries are not going to work? Where is the monopoly coming from? Monopoly means that you are the only player. We are not the only player. There are other refineries. So how can it be that we are, being monopolistic? And nobody is saying that, people talk about monopoly and energy security. We talk about energy security. So does it mean that it is better to be importing products to ensure energy security rather than what you already have in the country? It doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't make sense on many levels. Let me give you an example. When you talk about imports, you are importing products into the country on ships. And anytime we have less than 30 days out there, what you start to see is you start to see queues at the petrol stations because people take speculative positions. Now you have a refinery and you have a storage. How can that be, a way in a sense that you don't have energy security? So it means energy security is importing products and exporting crude. It simply doesn't make sense to us.
I know the other time we did talk about the stake of NNPC in the company, and Mr. Dangote did come out to clear the air. Perhaps you should also let us know the stake. And he did say that there's no incentive from any government in this project.
Well, you see, people talk about incentives in many, when it comes to Dangote Group. But there really has not been any special incentive. There are things that are available to Nigerians. And people talk about incentives, people talk about we didn't take anything from Nigeria. As a matter of fact, we challenge people to show proof where we have taken any special incentives. Because when you see these incentives, they are sectoral incentives in most cases, in other businesses. But if I'm talking specifically to the refinery, the refinery did not receive any incentive, any special incentive, I would say.
All right, so I think one curious question on the mind, and we have to end on this note because you're already got into the time on Sunrise Daily, is how will all of this affect the expectation of PMS supply from Dangote?
So for us, really, it's up to the authorities, it's up to the government. We are a private company, and we will start production of PMS by the beginning of beginning of next month. And
that's August.
Yes, that's August. We will start in August, and then hopefully we'll see what direction we're going to take regarding the supply of PMS to the domestic market.
All right, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will be looking forward to that because, I mean, as you said, anything happens, we see the queues. We still have queues even now. But thank you so much, Director, Group Chief Commercial Officer, Dangote Industries, and wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, I did say it was going to be a different program today, and sorry, Sunrise Daily, guys, we have to keep it of your time. But let's see, I think they'll just do their closing hours. Thank you so much. We'll see you at Business Incorporated. I'm Ini John McQuarrie.